I'm sure a lot of you are looking at your screen right now and wondering, what does this have to do with anything? Has the Florida Maquis lost his mind? What does this old 19, I think 40s, 50s cartoon have to do with anything in the modern era? Well, those of you who are old enough to remember Popeye, remember this side character, Wimpy, who was always walking around wanting people to front him a hamburger for a promise of payment at some later date. Now, this was a warning. This entire cartoon series was someone's attempt to ring a warning bell and do it subtly. This has been the role of art for a long time. Many examples throughout history of people attempting to not come under the scrutiny of government, using art to warn. Now, what is this talking about? Well, what this is talking about is the idea of issuing debt as valuation. Now, most people hear this and they begin to tune out, and believe me, I agree with you. There are a lot of guys on YouTube, all good-hearted, all with great intentions, who've attempted to explain this. And usually about 3 minutes in, they start to use terminology and phrases that just make people want to leave, because it doesn't really explain anything in reality to people. If I can take that greenback and I can pay my light bill, pay my insurance bill, get groceries, get gas, buy clothes for my kids, how can you say it's not worth anything? I'm going to try to use this analogy today to explain how capitalism is a giant, complete failure. It's just akin to flushing the toilet, watching the bowl rise and go, see, the water's coming up, it's working. Eventually, it all goes down the drain, and that's where we're headed. I've made allegation in 2 of my previous videos that I would, if it were up to me, first order of business would be to charge the Republicans and the Democrats, the organizations behind them, under Rico, going back decades, probably all the way back to World War II, really, and tell anyone currently serving, you have a choice. You can either be part of that organization and be arrested immediately, or you can renounce your allegiance to them, and we will deal with the DNC and the RNC specifically. Now, how do I get off saying that? How do I have any proof of what Rico is? Rico is let's see if I thought I brought it up here. I guess I might not have. Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act of 1970. Basically, it's a law designed to go after the mob, which basically says that it gives the U.S. government a monopoly to act like a mob. And that's really what it boils down to. Because here's and I know we are quite a ways in here. Let me give you the analogy. And we'll go back to the amendments real quick and talk about the national debt, bills unpaid, $23 trillion worth, and how it's just been business as usual since 2016. Nothing has changed. But what does this have to do with Wimpy? How can I make the average American see this? Okay, let's say you are the hamburger producer. Okay, and we'll use that as an example. You, of course, have a cost involved in creating that hamburger, don't you? And if you're not paid today for it, you're going to have to somehow pay your suppliers to continue to operate. Well, Wimpy can just write you an IOU, can't he? But what do we know? We can't go take an IOU to our local bank and hand it to them with a deposit slip and have them credit our account, can we? Well, guess who can? That's right. That's absolutely right. That's exactly what they do. See, IOUs to the federal government act like money on a balance sheet. And they can then say, because we're owed XYZ money, we can now issue new debt. Because we're going to call that real. We're going to call that actual funds in our account, even though it's just money owed. We're going to call that an income. Now, let's go back to this real quick. Let's say, okay, you go to Wimpy on Tuesday and you say, okay, I want my payment. See, a lot of people don't remember what Wimpy would do next. Wimpy would come back and say, I will pay you for 5 hamburgers on Saturday for 2 hamburgers today. Well, gosh, as a business owner, you got to think, man, I don't have any income coming in right now, but boy, if he really comes through on that, and I've only got to, provide 2 hamburgers, but I'm going to get 5 hamburgers worth of profit on Saturday, man, how can I turn that down? You see, you as a private person, a private business owner, could only handle that for so long, couldn't you? Before you would have to have Wimpy come up with the money. Well, guess who doesn't have to worry about that? That's right. They can continue this game as long as they want to, because they have an ability that you don't. They can just create magical wealth and then based on that, finance things. Assets, what the bank owns, plus what people owe to the bank. And you see, here we go. What people owe to the bank. That's what you need to pay attention to here. People can owe you money, private citizen, all day long. You can't take those IOUs and go down to the bank and put those in your account and then write checks against those IOUs to pay your light bill, to pay your, all those different things. Can you? Of course not. That's ridiculous, isn't it? And if you didn't pay your bills, and your lights got shut off, and your fridge went empty, and your insurance got canceled, what would you do? You would just go out of business, right? Guess what the government does? That's right. This is what they do. They get together Popeye, and that's who you're looking at here, Popeye, and they give him some spinach. Remember spinach? Those greenbacks? Remember that? And they go have a talk with anyone attempting to shut off the spigot to DC. Saying, you know what, no, we're done. We're done with the game. We're not going to extend you anymore. Guess what? They get a giant dose of freedom. A giant dose of liberty. That's what happens. And that's the scam of capitalism. It's thuggery. This is exactly what the mob did. They wonder much to hear that gold, which in itself is so useless a thing, should be everywhere so much esteemed, that even men for whom it was made, and by whom it has value, should yet be thought of less value than it is. A lot of people love to sing the praises of gold. Your gold is worthless. What do you mean it's worthless? Don't you see what they say, how much it's thousands of dollars? Not really. The first thing, it is functionally useless. The first thing you have to do with gold, go take your gold down to Walmart. Go take your gold to the gas station. Go walk into the utility company and slap that gold down and pay your... Of course you can't. Can you? And in a shit, it's the fan situation. If you think I'm selling you 1 loaf of bread, if you think I'm selling you 1 slice of bread in exchange for gold, you're out of your mind. It's useless. The first thing you have to do, let me finish my sentence, sorry about that, is you have to take your gold to an authorized, government-approved and licensed gold dealer, and then take your gold and change it into dollars. And then you can participate in the quote-unquote free market. But until you go to that government-licensed gold dealer, I don't care if you've got a pickup truck. I don't care if you've got a box truck load full of gold. It's worthless. It's functionally worthless until you turn it into this debt instrument first. Now, the next phase in the game is when the government issues debt and says, this is basically their wimpy version of getting paid for hamburgers. You give us ABC now, you China, you give us hamburgers now, and next year we will give you, 2 hamburgers worth of payment. And China likes this because they can do this same game. They can say the U.S. owes us all this money, and these IOUs are now abracadabra, alakazam, kapoof value that we can use to buy things. Can you do that, average American citizen? No. But that's exactly what governments do. And they play this back and forth game. And everyone's like, one of these days China's going to sell that. No, they're not. Gives them control. Gives them a mass amount of control. I mean, they can, at certain times, release certain amounts of it to manipulate their currency. But that's exactly what the Ndrangheta are chased down for doing. In Italy, the Calabrian Mafia. So this is the game. This is the capitalism scam. It's the ultimate Ponzi scheme. New money in to pay old debt. And as long as that new money in exceeds anything you might have to pay out for any amount of time, which, oh, by the way, where is that chart again? Let me find it. There it is. What does this tell you? That bills aren't being paid. And bills aren't being paid and haven't been paid for a long time. So this whole lie about capitalism causes freedom and it causes prosperity and it's lifted so many people out of terrible situations, it's a scam. It's a scam run by thugs who just happen to occupy the halls of power in D.C., which is why I have said before, true democratic socialism administered at the lowest possible level, financed by community property, destroys this system. And that's what they don't want you to know. That's why they have had to redefine what socialism is, and then convince you that that's all socialism can be, that all socialism is the free market and businesses being overtaxed to give money from those who produce to those who don't. You see how what they did there? Money taken from those who produce and given to those who don't. Did the light go off there for a minute? That's exactly what capitalism is. There are people that aren't paying for hamburgers, that are only paying in promises of payments for hamburgers, and then counting those promises as worth something. And it says it right on your money. Full faith and credit in what? The U.S. government. That's right. It says it right there, right in front of you. The scam is up, but nobody is seeing it. And I guess I will leave that there. Like, share, subscribe.